Rejoice, brethren, for these are auspicious times. Finally have we been recognized by our benevolent overkill. Our time is now. Tonight we stand as equals, for we have received the sacred blessing of the buff. No, not this gun. No, not that one either. Yes, our beloved Amcar got a buff. Rejoice, fellow Amcar mains. While our Amcar may still be the worst weapon in the game, but soon we're gonna be on top of the world. This video is sponsored by Ace Defender, a strategy RPG with rich tower defense elements. In this game, you play as Alipita, the dragon princess, who summons heroes to fight back the forces of evil. The story, or expedition, comes with over 40 chapters, 2,000 levels, and mixes RPG elements and tower defense modes. There are 48 different heroes that you can summon, each hailing from different factions of Divine, Demon, Shadow, Nature, and Light, all with their own immersive stories. New heroes are added every 2 weeks, level them up, and equip them with powerful gear. Expeditions will be your solo mode, while PvE allows you to explore regions and dungeons. There's also a PvP that allows you to play against players across the world. New players that use the link provided and reach level 10 will be awarded 150,000 gold, 700 diamonds, 7 royal recruit tickets, 50 hero fragments, 50 rare equip fragments, and the legendary hero Lipez. Download Ace Defenders today with a link in the description. Okay, in reality, this buff does almost nothing noticeable for the Amcar. And yes, I know, this isn't the most novel of ideas for a video, but at this point, Payday 2 is so damn old that everything has already been done. So fuck it, and fuck you. You guys may have already noticed, but I'm gonna do things a little bit differently from now on. It's just business now. I gotta do what I gotta do, So, as a whole, it's nice that they're trying to buff assault rifles. I mean, the most recent update added damage across the board for quite a few of them, and the recent implementation of range drop-off only had negative effects for the majority of weapons, assault rifles being one of the few that was actually able to retain max drop-off. I mean, way back when Overkill did one of their first big balance overhauls, what was it, back when Death Wish first came out? That made assault rifles really mediocre. And you know what, I get it. Before that, they were probably too good at everything, so they wanted to make sure that it wasn't just the best in every way possible. But in turn, it felt like they made assault rifles pretty mediocre at everything, thus giving us no reason to use them when we had such a plethora of weapons that excelled in other areas. Take SMGs, for example. They got high rate of fire, and they're good for crits. DMRs have range and precision. LMGs have sheer volume of output and sustainability. You get the picture. Now, I'm not saying that assault rifles are bad, but when you get all these standout weapon types, assault rifles kind of take the back seat. So now they're making a little bit of a comeback. But where does that put the good old Amcar? The Amcar is unfortunately the starter weapon, and thus relegated to one of the worst, if not the actual worst, gun in the whole game. Now, again, this doesn't mean that it's unusable, it's just bottom of the barrel when compared to most other guns. In fact, I'd say this game is easy enough where you can use anything you want and get away with beating most of the game. The turbo nerds don't like me saying that, but fact of the matter is, if you can pick mostly the right skills, and if you know how to play most of the maps, you can get away with using pretty much anything. But we're not here to talk about that. We're just here to make the Amcar the best it can be, within reason. As you can probably see from the gameplay thus far, it's not half bad. It really isn't. I wouldn't say it's the most practical of builds since you kinda overinvest into the gun, but at the end of the day, this is what I've found to make the Amcar good. The purpose of the skills I picked is to offset the weaknesses that the Amcar has. Play to its strengths, fill in the shortcomings. The strengths of the Amcar are relatively decent concealment, great modding options because of the various DLC packs, and amazing ammo pickup. What it's lacking, thus, is damage and precision. So to start off, I went with the double whammy of Low Blow Aced and Berserker Aced. I also opted to get Frenzy Basic, just so I can get easy activation of Berserker. That's all you really need from the damage department. Additional skills like Overkill Ace didn't make a huge difference, except for bulldozers, but it was a little bit too point heavy to invest into. Now the next thing I wanted to do was buff up the accuracy of the Amcar. Most assault rifles of this archetype suffer from horrid accuracy. There are a couple of ways of offsetting this, but I ended up going with the Professional Ace. So with the Silencer, I'm getting really good boosts, as well as Steady Grip Ace and Fire Control. Together, they add to my accuracy, while at the same time maxing out my stability at 100. With all that, I end up having a super stable and almost laser accurate rifle. Even when hip fired, I could probably hit snipers no problem. For survivability, I opted to try something a little bit different than what I usually do. This build requires both low detection and low health, so that knocks out some of the available perk decks. I decided to try something I haven't done in a long time. As you can see here, I picked up Duck and Cover for Dodge and Die Hard Ace. Yep, I went back to using a lightweight ballistic vest. So for the last bit of skills, I went with a Surefire Ace and Body Expertise Ace setup. As with the rest of the skills, I filled it in with the normal stuff you'd see on death sentence, such as Inspire to get people up, Bullseye for armor gating, and 9 Lives Ace if you're going to go on one down. I'll just go through the tree slowly so that you can kind of see where I place the rest of my skill points. For my perk deck, I went with Sicario. A buddy told me it's all the rage for dodge-based builds, so I decided to give it a try. As stated earlier, I'm also running with the lightweight ballistic vest. It helps me tank a shot from the light enemies on death sentence, though after using it a lot, I'm not actually sure if it was worth going this route. And finally, here's the AMCAR. One of the biggest reasons why the AMCAR is still a fairly competitive gun, despite being the starter weapon, is because of its modding capabilities. And this is how I've modded mine. The bigger the better suppressor, concealment boost, compact laser, titanium skeleton grip, speed pull magazine, the compact profile sight, and the wide stock. For my secondary, I went with the Judge, modded from Dragon's Breath, and Concealment. Dragon's Breath ammo, Concealment boost, Signature magnifier gadget, custom reinforced frame, and a compact profile sight. So one of the first things I wanted to talk about is one of the mods of the AMCAR, the Speed Pull magazine. This is, hands down, one of the strongest mods in the whole game, since basically, it removes any downside a weapon has in terms of reload speed. You get lightning fast reloads just for putting it on. And in turn, that also means that you don't need to spec into reload skills, especially in the Technician tree. One of the more broken mods in the game, since it basically comes at no downside. I guess the downside is you have to pay for DLC. That's a pretty big downside. This lets me allocate my points a bit more generously, which thus leads me to my next topic, Body Expertise. I know a lot of people really like using Body Expertise for rifle builds, but honestly, I feel really bad using it. It's like ingrained in my very being to go for headshots, and when I put it on, I get super lazy. I start spraying all over the place. It's undoubtedly super effective, but man, I feel awful putting it on. Alright, so after all that, what's the verdict? What's the final verdict? Was I able to make the AMCAR good? Hell yeah, it's pretty damn good! Though like I said earlier, it's a bit of an overinvestment into the gun itself, so if you choose a different one, like maybe the Commando or the Valkyria that also got buffed, you'd get more bang for buck. Overall though, this is pretty much a fairly standard assault rifle setup for the weaker archetype. And it's really just a testament to how strong some of our skills are. I've said this many times before, but crits and berserker damage, they're really the enablers that allow otherwise mediocre weapons to shine. Overall, this whole setup has been pretty straightforward. Build it for damage, slap some accuracy skills and the right mods, and you've got yourself a workhorse of a weapon. I can use it at pretty much any range, and while normally it's hard as hell to do stuff like tackle snipers, with this setup, it doesn't become a problem at all. The only thing that was a little wild for me was using Sicario Dodge. Now, the thing about this game is that the gameplay and the meta, they haven't changed in years. This is a really old game, and it's been fairly stagnant. And me? I've gotten super lazy. I basically play with my brainless hacker and stoic. And I say brainless, but like, they're some of the best and easiest to use perk decks in the game. You'd be stupid not to use them. But sometimes you get thrown a curveball where you gotta try something new. Hacker is my go-to for dodge builds, but it falls a bit short when I have to mix in a berserker setup. So I sniffed around and heard from the grapevine that Sicario dodge ain't half bad. And what do you know? It really isn't. I was pleasantly surprised by how it held up when testing the AMCAR. Of course, it's not without its own shortcomings like any other setup, but is pretty dang good. I got stuck on the idea that Sicario was all about the smoke grenade, when really, the smoke is just a utility, like anything else. The smoke grenade is incredibly handy when you have to approach a big group of enemies or do an objective, but it's very much a preemptive ability. You have to predict when shit is going to go down, whereas most perk decks, they're reactive. You either just take damage and something happens, or you push a button when shit starts going south. So that was really the biggest change I had to make for this playstyle. Other than that, the neutral game is much nicer than I thought it would be. The base dodge is pretty low, but every time you take damage, increase your dodge chance, and combined with my slightly tankier ballistic vest, I felt like I could take a couple hits. When you do finally dodge, you'll also gain all your armor back, and paired with the usual armor gating from Bullseye, which is very important, it actually felt fairly sustainable. The neutral game is actually much better than I ever gave it credit for. So, for the build as a whole, at first I thought that I would try a super cheesy build, like going overkill ace on top of berserker and crits, maybe high value target, pretty much dumping all of my useful survivability for meme damage. But when I tested it, it's honestly not worth going for it. The damage here is more than enough, and with some easy mode body expertise, you don't even really need to be skilled to get the most use out of the gun. The only place in which the AMCAR falls short is against bulldozers. You've probably seen it in the gameplay. While the AMCAR can take out every enemy and every special pretty quickly, bulldozers take quite a while. The low damage of the AMCAR is bogged down by a really slow fire rate, one of the slowest of the assault rifles. This just makes it feel like it takes a really long time to kill bulldozers. I was considering changing up my secondary to better accommodate the weakness, but I never found something I was really happy with. And plus, if I did that, then it wouldn't be an AMCAR focus. It'd be, oh, look at this gun. If you wanted to, you could take a shotgun with HE rounds to break the faceplates easily, but it would still take a little while to kill bulldozers, at least from what I did when I was testing it. Honestly, if you just picked up a higher damage assault rifle, or used the Kimbos or something like that, you'd get more mileage that way. Anyway, to summarize, the AMCAR ain't half bad. It's pretty fun to break out a build like this every once in a while when you get tired of Monkey Brain Shotgun, but I love Monkey Brain Shotgun. Doing this video kind of reminded me of all the build videos I used to make. It's been a while since my last one. What do you guys think? Should I go back to making those again? Well, then again, it kind of depends on how well the videos will do. And again, it kind of depends how well this video does. Well, give me a heads up if that's something you're interested in. In any case, that's all I got for you guys today. Thanks for watching.